Okay, according to everything that I've managed to figure out, which is a bit of an impressive thing for me as a boomer, I do apologize for the creaking chair. I've spent the last 15 minutes losing my mind at technology. Currently, I should be properly recording, and okay, it looks like everything's going to work this time. So, today's piece is going to be about Captain Newfoundland, which you'll know that from the thumbnail, which is one of the lesser-known Canadian superheroes. We're actually going to delve a little bit into Canadian superheroes in general before I move over to focusing on Captain Newfoundland. Before I do any of that, however, I do want to promote my friend Christopher's Kickstarter. This is for his art book in support of sorry, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation again, Christopher, I do apologize. This is in support of his art book, Le Royaume Démoniaque, which I think I got that fairly close. Royaume, possibly. In any case, it's for the demon arms in English, as you can see here, on the actual book itself. This is an art book depicting all the creatures and people of the first 4 books that he has written. He is currently at about $2,600 of his $50,000 goal. This is in Canadian money. He is having a significant amount of problems getting it shilled out, but it's an all or nothing. So I very much want to encourage everyone to go to, let me just grab this actually, copy, and I very much want to encourage everyone to go and have a look at his Kickstarter. Give him what support you can. And, of course, my computer is very slow again. I went through the effort of downloading Process Explorer to actually try and find what the problem was. I seem to have sorted some of the issues out. Again, I'm going to have to focus on tech, which is not my strong suit, ironically, given what I do for something of a living at this point. But I will be doing a video dedicated to Christopher's work shortly, sometime this week, in fact, and very much hope that he will have a degree of success that so far the Kickstarter is not finding. While I'm doing that, in fact, I am going to open a... No, I won't be doing that, actually, because that'll slow my computer down again. It's the last thing I need to do. So, moving on to the topic at hand, now that we've discussed a new figure in pop culture, it's time to talk about a fairly old one. Captain Newfoundland, or actually several fairly old ones, but we'll have a look at this one first. Now, this article comes from... Oops, my apologies. I'm misclicking now because I'm a little frustrated and tired. But this article comes from the Den of Geek, and they're referencing the new Justice League United series, so it actually tells you this is quite an old article, especially when you look at the date. That would have been just before my 28th birthday, I believe, or just after my 28th birthday. But, as they said, this could easily turn into a top 11 superheroes, Canadian superheroes, could easily turn into the top 10 Alpha Flight plus Wolverine. They were nice enough not to do that, and at number 11 we have Sasquatch, who was created by John Byrne. First appearance was in Uncanny X-Men, probably fighting Wolverine, as a matter of fact. Here we have, I believe, yeah, this is Sergeant Canuck. Not to be confused with either Johnny Canuck or Captain Canuck, who actually will feature later as well. We have the Purple Rider, who I've never heard of. Yeah, I do apologize. It's, yeah, one of those things that just sometimes happens, at least with my setup. We have the Polka Dot Pirate. Again, this is another that I had never heard of. Apparently she's a relatively unknown figure. Yeah. In any case, moving along, we have Puck from Alpha Flight, who is actually one of my favorite characters, simply because he's a short guy who takes no guff from nobody. Red Ketchup, I've never heard of. Not sure who this is. Northgard. A top-secret Canadian think tank called Progressive Allied Canadian Technologies created a personal weapon system. So this is, yeah, a bit of a self-insert, I think. It's a comic. The hero turns out to be a video clerk and comic book fan. I'm wondering if the person who wrote and created this character is not someone who was working as a video clerk and into comic books at the time. They do... I have to admit at this point I don't know a lot about the Den of Geek in terms of their ability to report well. These folks may not actually be geeks. They may in fact be comic book journalists who claim to be geeks. In any case, we're now coming to the meat of the matter, which is Captain Newfoundland. And of course, this is a panel from one of the... I would say one of the strips, but this strikes me as being from an actual comic book. As you can see, it was created by Jeff Scott. It's actually supposed to be Jeff and Scott Sterling, if I recall correctly, and Danny Bulanati, who had worked for Marvel. His first appearance was, and I do apologize again, I had it wrong, it wasn't the 80s, it was 1979. And they do point out very much that, and in fact, it's mentioned here in this particular little caption, that these are Viking warriors. Supposedly, that's some interesting armor this particular Viking warrior is wearing. And that's a very interesting spear this one's wielding. Also, when was David Crockett a Viking? But we'll leave that alone. There are some hilariously anachronistic things done here as well. But as they say, this one's a bit strange and a whole lot of amazing. Captain Newfoundland was one of the heroes featured in the Captain Newfoundland comic strip, later started his own graphic novel, which that panel may be from, with a cover by none other than Boris Vallejo, and the cover by Boris will come up at some point later. It's an absolutely beautiful piece of artwork, and it does detail his origins as part of a race of aliens who came to Earth and supposedly founded Atlantis. This ties into the idea that Newfoundland is actually part or the remainder or some remnant of Atlantis, or may in fact have been the location of Atlantis, none of which is really confirmed very well. Originally, Captain Newfoundland was called Captain Atlantis. Let me see here. In modern times, Captain Atlantis took the name Captain Newfoundland, became a protector of Earth and Canada. Granted powers to other beings, including Captain Canada. It's not so much that he granted powers so much as he taught them how to unlock the powers within themselves. This is very much a... it's somewhat original in its focus because this character is heavily linked to yoga and other practices of, I suppose, pop culture posers of the time. It did have its own show, briefly. There was a character called Mademoiselle. There was a character called Captain Freedom. Captain Freedom, yeah, it's kind of like Captain America and Hawkman smashing together at great speeds. The Golden Dove, Japan, Jeff Sterling, yeah, reportedly creator and television mogul Jeff Sterling, who was a luminary here in Newfoundland, actually believed that Newfoundland was a remaining part of Atlantis and used the character to spread his theories. Whether this is conjecture or not, and I don't know if they're talking about the bit about Jeff Sterling being believing this particular thing, or whether this theory itself is conjecture. Captain Newfoundland is one of the purest and strangest symbols of Canadian superheroes in the modern era. I would absolutely agree with that. Definitely one of the strangest. Here's the original Captain Canon, who did get a update not too long ago from, I believe it was Chapter House Comics. North Star, who was, for the record, the first gay character in Marvel, if I recall correctly. And of course, Wolverine, because you can't have any discussion of Canadian superheroes without Wolverine. And I've seen similar lists to this that listed Deadpool. Deadpool's not a superhero. Deadpool's an assassin. He's not a good person. Kills people. He's not a hero. Sorry, kills people for money. Not a hero. Anyway, to get back to our focus, Captain Newfoundland. His real name is unknown. Don't know that he even necessarily has one. And as you can see here, they do refer to him repeatedly as Captain Atlantis. He was considered the tutor to superheroes who protect the world. Okay, for some reason I can't actually highlight that text. But you can't see my cursor, so we'll call it even. Golden Dove, Captain Canada. I don't recall who this enemy that they've mentioned. He's had various different aliases as Odin, which I believe was more a case of a ruse that he played on the Vikings who attacked him. He had various powers and abilities, able to transform, able to teleport, could take passengers, perceives time and space differently from humans, which is why he can manipulate them. He can communicate telepathically, can allow others to understand other tongues. One of the things I did, and I'll put my face back on screen for this, one of the things I very much did like about Captain Newfoundland was that he was not so much a pacifist as he was a passive superhero in a sense. The best way to put it would probably be to say that he was more of a mentoring figure as opposed to an active or an actor figure. He didn't really go out of his way to have an effect on the environment around him, other to impart his wisdom. Might have had some effect on me. And actually, just to kind of have a bit of fun here, let's have a look at this comics version of Captain Canada. Let's see if we can get a good look. This is more an article talking about Jeff Sterling himself. In any case, I will endeavor to show. There we are. So this is another image of Captain Canada, which I can bring up as well. And while that's going on, we'll bring that one up. There we go. This is probably the best depiction of Captain Canada. There's actually a fairly good Captain Canada costume used in the television sequence that was created. I'm actually somewhat curious about Gremlin now. I don't recall if I've ever actually had an encounter or read anything to do with him. It doesn't look like I have. I don't recognize this character at all. This is Captain Canada here, of course. Let's go back. So just to show you some of the other characters, Captain Freedom. As I said, and as Dan Geek pointed out, this is like Captain America and Hawkman got smashed together. Mademoiselle, if I recall correctly, was quite an attractive, or had quite an attractive costume. I can't really argue with Boris Vallejo's art. And that's one of the few good things about being so familiar with Boris's work, is that it's quite easy to see his hand at things. and of course, in the fine style of 70s and 80s comic books, she's a very attractive woman. Now, just to move back over here, this is the Newfoundland Herald's page, which was where Captain Newfoundland was published. As far as I know, it's not being published anymore. I may have that wrong. If I do, please feel free to correct me in the comments. This was written in 2021, and at that time, it had been well over 40 years that Captain Newfoundland had been around. Personally, I would very much love to see Captain Newfoundland get a revival, perhaps with a little less focus on the hippie/political aspects of it, and more with the idea that it would be something that would be about imparting wisdom. That's, in my opinion, Captain Newfoundland's greatest ability. I keep wanting to call him Captain Atlantis. That's why I do kind of hesitate when I'm saying Captain Newfoundland. But I would far prefer that his superpower be the imparting of wisdom and teaching people. And again, I'm getting skipped frames. I do apologize. This video is lower quality than you guys expect from me, which, if you expect high quality from me, that's friggin' disturbing. But I am trying my best. I will have to do a little more work later. Let me go to the next set of links I have here. I do love that people recognize very easily that Captain Newfoundland is in fact a very bonkers sort of, how to put it, property. The fact that it's Vice, please don't hold that against me, but if even Vice finds you to be bonkers, you're probably bonkers, let's be honest. And as they said, this story is over 5 years old. This is talking about more Captain Canada, I think. But, yeah, this talks a little more about the origins of the Captain Newfoundland, Captain Atlantis character. In 1975, Newfoundland media baron Jeff Sterling took a trip to India and attained spiritual enlightenment. Spoiler, it involves meditation, veganism, yoga, and a heroic dose of LSD. I would not be particularly surprised by that. It was that time of the century, after all. But yes, yoga-powered superheroes, that's definitely not incorrect. This is the really atrocious costume of Captain Atlantis that was used. We'll do some waiting for that. Yeah, well, yeah, this is a little odd. Don't think just be, this is some Star Wars kick in there as well. And this is just talking about the, how to put it, I believe, yeah, you can see Saturn, or probably Satan. Yeah, it's very interesting. But to move back to talking about Captain Newfoundland, well, this is unfortunate. All we have here is a very tiny little image here, which isn't terrible, but doesn't really show off the artwork possibilities. Just for an aside here, this character here, third from the left on the top row, this is actually the new Captain Canon, who's got some connections to aliens as well. I'm not 100% sure who this fellow underneath him is, but he's holding a sword, which makes me interested. I wonder if that's not the Dark Knight. Let me just scroll a little bit, maybe we can find out here. No, okay, this is from Comic Vine, so not necessarily the best source. Let me see here, so that's Comic Vine. Okay, so this article here talks about the origins of the artwork. And I do apologize, I appear to be skipping a lot of frames. I may in fact lose this recording altogether. That's interesting. Give me back the screen. There we go. So this is talking about, I believe his last name was Bulanati. Here we are, yeah, Danny Bulanati. who was a Marvel artist. And he apparently was very prolific with quite a lot of the various properties that I'm familiar with. Captain America, the Fantastic Four, and the Transformers among them. This is very interesting, though, that Bulanati's images of Captain Newfoundland were still very well remembered by my own countrymen. God, that's a terrible, what was it called? Hellboy. There we go. And this is one of the things that I absolutely love, that they describe him as an ancient intergalactic shapeshifter who could teleport through time and space to become one with the universe. Took on several forms, among them Captain Atlantis. In the comics, Newfoundland is thought to be the tip of the mythical kingdom of Atlantis. Of course, that's almost certainly hogwash, but in any case, what do you do? And switching to another link, and I did find quite a lot of links. I will endeavor to include them all in the description of this video. If there's anything missing, do let me know. Just waiting for everything to catch up again here now. Even my timer on my recording is skipping pretty badly, so I do apologize for that. I imagine there's a lot of chop in this video. And as you can see, my PC is, or my laptop rather, is working rather hard at this. Okay, so once this comes up, this will show everything that NTV has for Captain Newfoundland. It's just running a tag search. If this takes much longer, I'm just going to skip it and go to the next link. There we are. Okay, so this would have been the story about Danny Bulanati passing away. And that's the only thing, which is unfortunate because that's actually far better. This little TV spot that this is taken from was actually one of the things that I watched or looked forward to seeing on a fairly regular basis, mostly because being a comic book fan, it was very rare for any connection to Newfoundland to come up. It was occasional in Aquaman. Yeah, it's extremely rare to see Newfoundland depicted in any pop culture. But outside of something like the Indiana Jones map scene transitions, where he does have to actually make a stop in St. John's on his way to the east, or to Europe, Africa, that area, which is historically accurate for the time. It's very rare to see Newfoundland referenced in any pop culture, to the point that within my family it was something of a game where if we saw Newfoundland, for example, in the background of the War Room in Dr. Strangelove, it was very common for either myself or my father to point us out, which is the benefit of having a very distinctive island to come from. So this is from gcdcomics.org. I'm not 100% sure what this is. I suspect this is just a... Okay, this is a series of... I'm not 100% sure what this is. I guess this is just a background on the... Okay, this would be the graphic novel cover. I do apologize for being somewhat stumbling, but I do believe this is one of the covers that Boris did, but I'm not 100% sure. This would be the collector's edition of the comic book strip, if I recall correctly, which was produced in 1981, but there would have been quite a lot of, how to put it, there would have been quite a lot of strips, episodes of the strip produced after this. Moving along again, at some point, I hope. Okay. This is just an image showing the transition from Captain Newfoundland to Captain Canada. And again, another still from that. This is actually just a little bit of a search item in any case. I don't think there's anything terribly great in terms of information about Captain Newfoundland. One of the issues, of course, there being that it's very, very rare to find any information about Captain Newfoundland if you haven't read the comics. And again, I do apologize if this video is not doing well. I'm already at the point where I should be shilling this video, and it simply is not going to be ready in time. I will be putting it out as fast as I can once it's complete. And normally I don't go 26 minutes at a video anyway. But there was quite a lot of information to cover on this one. Or at least quite a lot of links. Quite a few links to cover. Again, this is just part of a video. This would be part of the television segment that was filmed. I'm just waiting for this to load up now so that I can actually hit mute on it. Okay, I can't guarantee that's actually going to play, so I'm just going to close that if I can. Okay. But as you can see, this is something of a depiction of Atlantis here. And there are regularly different quotes, I guess, on this website. I don't know how regularly this is updated. It seems to me that the last time I looked at this website that this was the same quote that was there. I could have that wrong. But I do like the quote. It's from Charles Kingsley, and it reads, "We act as though comfort and luxury were the chief requirements of life, when all that we need to make us happy is something to be enthusiastic about." I think I agree. There's quite a bit of... I think I can actually get a good look at a Captain Canada here. Here we are. Well, it's not a great image. Oh, here we are. So this is another... This is actually CGI. This is from... I would say sometime in the late 90s, early 2000s-ish. Not the highest budget, obviously. And of course you have Captain Atlantis here as well. Moving along to another link. This is, and it is a testament to how well remembered Captain Newfoundland is. That people who come from Newfoundland and are missing home will actually go to the effort of writing about this particular character. And while this looks like a fairly threatening pose, knowing what we know about how Captain Newfoundland doesn't really do much in the way of actually fighting, there's not much point in drawing him in that way. But it's one of the interesting contradictions of the character, that he's often depicted in what appear to be violent poses, and yet never actually engages in violence that I've ever seen. There was something I did want to point out here. Someone had said that... Here we are, Michael Strickland, and I did go and try to find his Twitter page. It no longer exists. Michael, if you happen to be watching this, he says he loves Captain Newfoundland and is trying to revive him. I agree. I think it's a worthwhile character to return to pop culture, especially nowadays with so much... I have to couch this for YouTube, so we'll say cultural degradation and dismissal, especially of the sub-ethnicities of the whites. Just to be, to put a bit of a point on that. And one last link before I show a snippet of the video is from the Canadian Animation, Cartooning, and Illustration. It's from the Encyclopedia of Canadian Animation, Cartooning, and Illustration. My apologies, that's my alarm for shilling. Unfortunately, I won't be shilling right away. So, as I noted earlier, Jeff and Scott Sterling, father and son, were the creators of Captain Newfoundland. It was drawn by U.S. artist Danny Buonati, who had worked for Marvel. Captain Newfoundland was also known as Samedi. First appeared in 1980 as a cartoon feature in the St. John's Sunday Herald, which has now been renamed to the Newfoundland Herald. And of course, it talks about his origins as from Atlantis, things like that. Captain Kundalini, I believe, was actually another name for Captain Canada, but I may have that incorrect. Yeah. They didn't make a big deal of who Captain Canada had been before he encountered Captain Newfoundland, was real name being Daniel Eaton, which is a fairly common, or fairly prominent, I should say, name in Canadian business. Do I have anything else to show you guys? I do, as a matter of fact. I have a bit of YouTube to show, and I will, of course, be muting this, partly because the music is absolute trash, and also partly because, well, nobody really cares that much. In any case, I will bring that back up. And, of course, for the sake of fair use, I will be talking over this as it plays. Fortunately, it's only a minute, and should be fairly quick to go through once it actually loads. As I have the other window finished with, I will close it. And again, I do apologize for the lower quality of this video than other videos I've made. I am going to spend a significant amount of time this evening attempting to find out why my system is so slow. I don't believe I've added enough equipment to my setup to cause this. I think either I've picked up a virus or some sort of process has gotten out of hand and needs to be sorted out in short order. In any case, this should be running properly shortly. And I'm going to try to make this look a little better. So we'll go with a fit to screen rather than a stretch to screen. And hopefully all that will take at about the same time. I'm surprised that I'm actually well over 30 minutes into this. And while I'm actually talking, I would very much appreciate you guys liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting, as always. But also consider signing up for, subscribing to my Rumble channel, which is rumble.com/ardentparty. That link is below my face when I bring my camera back on. As you can see, the graphics in this are not exactly super high quality, even for the time it was produced. There is probably a degree of reuse of older effects. And yeah, the blue screen effect is absolutely wonderful, isn't it? Okay, as that's not playing any real sense, I'm just going to close that and put my face back up. So, again, if you're interested, kindly subscribe to me on Rumble. I'm hopeful that I will be able to produce some different, certainly more honest material on Rumble than I do on YouTube. Not having to couch my speech in terms that are somewhat coded or some... Oh, goodness. Yes, I dismissed you once. Thank you. Everything going wrong today. In any case, I'll be ending this here. You know, if there's a superhero for your region that's kind of unknown, let me know. You guys can find me on Twitter. You won't be able to find me on MeWe or Minds anymore. I've ended my use of those platforms. My accounts still exist there, but I wasn't getting any more than very rare, very minimal interaction there, so I decided to simply stop investing energy in those platforms. That wasn't paying any sort of dividend. I do still have a Getter account. That appears to have kind of stagnated in terms of growth. I think a big chunk of the reason for that is Elon's purchase of Twitter has caused, I would say, a resurgence of faith in that platform. The downside being Twitter has such a very, very limited character count that it makes it very difficult to say anything of substance there, which was one of the things I did like very much more about Getter, because Getter's character limit was 777. Bit of a meme, but I understand why. With Twitter, it is what it is, and it's much the same with YouTube. There are things we can say on YouTube, there are things we absolutely cannot say on YouTube, and knowing when those change is a guessing game at best. One of the good things about Rumble, they appear, at least so far, to be committed to the concept of free speech. If that doesn't last, then I would assume creators like myself will simply find somewhere else to create. I know that at this point I far prefer Rumble to YouTube, as I'm already monetized there, and yeah. So, in any case, I hope you will kindly have a look at Christopher's Kickstarter. You know, I will be doing what I can the next few days. I will be putting up my regular reading tomorrow. The plan right now is to begin working on my friend Cassandra Garduna's work again. I will be doing the re-recordings of the Leaving Day story that I read before, and hopefully that will go very well. In any case, that goes there. Sorry, I'm just moving things around on my desktop, and I really shouldn't be distracted while I'm making a video, but things happen. And it's been one of those kinds of days. So, hopefully you're all having a good New Year. Certainly I hope you're having a better one than I am. Cursed machinery! Anyway, I hope you're doing well. I hope you continue to do well. And rise again until lambs become lions. Bye-bye.